Hi, this is Rick Lara, and this presentation is about an overview of the Confident Investor process. The Confident Investor process does two things really well. It simplifies the financial planning conversation for your client, and it better aligns their assets with their goals. And when we do that, we transform their fear and confusion into confidence and clarity. Now let me tell you what the process actually is by starting to tell you what it's not. What it's not is that three-ring binder approach that you'll see from other firms that ultimately start with a 10 or 20 page fact find and attempt to get every possible piece of information your client could ever give them about everything that's ever happened in their life, and it spits it out in a plan out in a 100 or 200 or 300 page format that's stuck in a three-ring binder. You know, it's not that that information isn't good and valuable, it is, but what we find, because we're trying to transform their fear and confusion into confidence and clarity, what we find is so much of the information in that binder actually creates more fear and confusion. We're trying to simplify. That actually creates more of the anxiety because it's information overload. Planning is a process. It's an ongoing event, not a single time, one-time situation. And generally speaking, what happens with those binder approaches to financial planning is two things. First of all, because there's such a voluminous process, there's so much information in there, much of it goes unfulfilled. Proper transitions aren't necessarily met. And, you know, life changes. And so a lot of the stuff that may have been relevant in that very moment are not really relevant 5 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later. So we created the Confident Investor process to act both as a snapshot and a guide and to help create the path to getting your clients back on track in a very simple, holistic, transparent approach that actually gets them to take action. So let me just briefly run you through the four pieces of it. We have other videos that get into the nuts and bolts of how these actually work, but let me give you the thinking behind them. The four steps of the process are the lifetime vision conversation, the money now, money later, money never approach, the SMART plan, and the life happens review. In the lifetime vision conversation, what we do is with some very thoughtful questions, probably questions your clients never been asked before, we learn all about their fears, their concerns, their goals, and their objectives. And we do it in a way that's very non-threatening and in a way that once they understand what's happening, they really want to play the game, so to speak. They want to participate in the activity and give you the information that you need in order to be a professional planner. It also can be used kind of as the suitability or the litmus test for everything that they're in and every recommendation that you'll make from an investment standpoint, and you'll see how that works in a little bit. The second step is the money now, money later, money never approach. And so this is a really key part of the process where a lot of education comes in and where a lot of learning about your client's assets come in. The first thing we do here is we inventory their stuff. We measure back to who they are in the lifetime vision conversation with what they have in the now, later, never approach. And what we find is so many opportunities to where they've got off track to bring them back on track. This is where they become misaligned, and you can be involved in the realignment process. What do we mean by that? Well, when you go through the money now, later, never approach and you do your tax buckets conversation and your life stages of money, what you're going to find is they got a bunch of stuff. Some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't. It may have made sense for when they purchased it. It may make sense in the future, but there have been so many changes in their life, both in family and business issues and goals, with products in the marketplace, with tax law changes, things like that, that what they were in may not be the best thing to get them where they want to go. So in some respect, they got off track. Using this approach really highlights that. It's like shining a flashlight on it and showing them that, you know what, this may have made sense 10 years ago, but it doesn't make a lot of sense now. So we inventory their stuff, we see what's working and what's not. okay? And then we move to the SMART plan, and we kind of distill the information that we've learned in the 2 previous steps, and we report back to them, this is what these are what your goals and concerns were, this is what you have that's either working or not, and this is what we need to do about it to make it work. So we learned about them, we saw where they got off track, we helped them get back on track, and we do it in a very transparent, easy to implement, simple path to action method where we don't have a 3-ring binder sitting on a shelf that never gets implemented. And then the 4th part, which is very important, is the life happens review. We say life happens because life happens. Every 5, 6, 7 years, generally speaking, there are major events in someone's life, whether they be personal or business related, that have a tremendous effect on their overall financial world. This is our way of staying on top of that. Of course, we meet with our clients regularly for everyday situations, but when there's a child born, or there's a death in the family, or a business is started, or a kid goes to college, or someone gets married, or the list of items could go on forever. The Life Happens review comes in to take them through the whole formal process again and make the necessary adjustments to make sure they're always on track. That's an overview of the Confident Investor process. Again, when properly implemented, we find tremendous results in transforming their fear and confusion into confidence and clarity, and that's really the best value we can provide. I hope this helps.